Good evening. I'm Nathan Sticks, Chair of the Community Activities Commission, calling to order the Newcastle Community Activities Commission meeting of November 12th, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. This public meeting is being recorded, broadcast live, and may be viewed later on the city's YouTube channel. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Amy, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Well, now I'm going to have to redo this. Commissioner Traeger. Commissioner Van Atta.
Present.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Gulzarian.
Present.
Commissioner Kretzinger. Here. Vice Chair Flash.
I am here.
Chair Sticks.
And I am present. Thank you. Agenda approval. Is there any objection to approval of tonight's agenda as presented? And I'm going to first start off by saying, please note that under item 8.1, under unfinished business, it is mistitled, and it should say community liaison assignments. Other than that, is there any other updates to the agenda? Kim?
I make a motion to discuss a potential collaboration opportunity with Aegis Gardens. Recreational opportunity.
So is that a separate agenda item?
Would be added to the end of general business, correct?
So it sounds like Commissioner Van Atta is making a motion to add agenda item 9.6 as she outlined. So we would need a second, and then Chair, you would take a vote, and then it would be added to the agenda.
I would like to second the motion.
I'll make a motion to add agenda item 9.6. I'm sorry, Kim, what was it called again?
It's exploring an adult recreation opportunity in collaboration with Aegis Gardens.
Okay.
Chair Sticks, the Commissioner Van Atta already made the motion. So, yeah, and Commissioner Gulzarian has seconded it, so you get to take a vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Show it as on the agenda. Okay. Any other changes to tonight's agenda? And please show it approved as changed. And then approval of our minutes. Is there any objection to approval of the October 8th minutes? No objections. Please show the minutes approved. Okay. Do we have any public comment?
No, we do
Nope.
not.
Okay, Commissioner comments and celebrations. Are there any comments and celebrations? I will start. I'd like to first welcome Harvey Traeger to the Commission. We're very honored to have you and excited to have you on the Commission. So welcome, Harvey.
Thank you very much. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to helping out the city of Newcastle and representing the city of Newcastle for the next 4 years or so. Thank you.
Are there any other comments and celebrations?
I've got some comments. I'm looking forward to this year's Newcastle Holiday Market. If you know anyone who would like to participate, either as a vendor or a volunteer, please have them reach out to newcastleholidaymarket@gmail.com as soon as possible. The holiday market will be held from 12 to 6 p.m. on Saturday, November 29th in the Safeway parking lot on Cold Creek. And it's a perfect chance to spend time with friends and neighbors in the spirit of the season and support some local vendors and artisans before heading over to the tree lighting at the fruit and produce stand.
Okay, thank you, Christian. And with that, let's go into reports. And Amy, events and recreation.
Yes, so this month I'm doing it orally. As many of you know, I am full on into helping the city migrate the content of the current website over to the new website, and so that's taken quite a bit of attention. So in terms of events, we wrapped up another third year of Pumpkins in the Parks. If you weren't aware already, the parks highlighted this year were Madison Lane, Wind Tree, Redmond Park, which is a repeat from last year, Glen Eagles, and then the Lake Bourne Boardwalk. A lot of good response, as always, to the pumpkins. So I'm happy that the community continues to enjoy that event. Sadly, we did have to cancel Arbor Day Trick or Treat. We were very excited about this for a number of reasons. But unfortunately, it occurred after we had that windstorm and power outage, and 2 of the 3 staff members involved in that particular event were in storm response mode. That would be myself on the comm side and Connor Simonson on the Public Works crew side. So between that and the fact that the Coal Creek Parkway lights were not functioning, that there were 3 poles or trees down on May Creek Park Drive, we didn't feel it was appropriate to hold a event regardless of the rain or shine that we originally advertised. So we are, Planner Hutchins and I have already talked about a way to meet some of the goals of what we had planned to accomplish. That is getting feedback from the community about Donegal Park refresh. And also we have 30 saplings, native saplings giveaway. And so City of Newcastle will be attending the holiday pop-up market. Thank you. And we will be doing some of that outreach work, as well as some winter storm resources and emergency preparedness outreach. Lots of storm response stocking stuffers giveaways for folks. But look forward to Arbor Day next year. That is something we definitely liked what we had planned and look forward to implementing it again next year. And so that brings us to our sparkly, shall we say, Lights of Newcastle that is coming up. It will be launched this Friday. In the newsletter, there will be a deadline of early December, December 5th, for people to register. Voting will take place between December 10th and December 9th. That gives me just enough time to get all those Google Maps done and the PDF versions of the Google Maps done, get the signs out to the participants. The winners will be announced on socials on December 22nd. Very thankful to Nathan to reaching out to some of our sponsors who had expressed an interest in maybe sponsoring a little bit more after the summer. And Matt Larson at PSE has agreed to sponsor Lights of Newcastle in part. So we're very happy with that. I did meet with our subcommittee about how we wanted to frame it this year, and we are keeping the online voting. 4 of the 5 categories will remain. The only one we're going to change is the Buddies Kids Choice. We are going to make that more of a selection, and so my first ask is of PSE to see if they would like to select that winner, and if not, we do have a backup plan should PSE opt not to. A couple of things that are different this year from last year. We are going to enter all the participants into a drawing for a gift basket to acknowledge and thank them for their participation. We also discussed having prizes for the winners, which would be absolutely amazing. So if any of you have connections or have time to reach out to some of our local businesses and see if they'd like to donate a gift card or swag or something, I would need to know that by about Thanksgiving time, so I can broadcast their participation and thank them for their participation. Any questions about what I've just discussed, and then I'll give you a couple recreation updates and a budget update. Questions about events? Alrighty. So on the recreation side, even though we do not have winter Skyhawks, the spring Skyhawk schedule is actually already up there. We won't start broadcasting registration until January, but we are offering, like we did in the fall, 3 one-month sessions, which seem to be hit a real good sweet spot in having people try a lot of different things. It allowed us to try pickleball for the first time, so we are bringing back pickleball and tennis and flag football. We also tried in fall, we have summer camps, but tried it as a fall class for the first time. So we're bringing back those as well as basketball, soccer, tennis. So we look forward to that. And then just a reminder, if you have any volunteer opportunities, the next volunteer newsletter goes out on Friday the 21st. So I would need anything by that Thursday, the 20th. Questions about recreation? Yes, sir.
Question, Skyhawks, is that's all at Lake Bourne?
It is. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We did try one time to do it at Donegal Park because it's got a nice flat space, and it didn't pick up as well as the parks at Lake Bourne did. So that's not to say we might not try other parks in the future. But yeah, Lake Bourne.
I walked to the new park on 95th Southeast, and it's going to have awesome areas for that kind of stuff from the plan that I see here, and also just walking around in the park.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
There is that potential for additional recreation opportunities. Alrighty then, so finally onto the budget. So you may or may not be aware that the 2026 budget passed council last Tuesday night, November 4th. At the November 4th meeting, 7-0, which means all of our events are funded. They are funded at the same levels as 2025, which is also the same level as 2024. So that's something to look forward to in December. However, I do want to let you know that my position was, it was moved and then voted by a vote of 4-3 to remove point 2 from my position. As you know, I had been part-time. Point 6 and then point 8 when I took on communications, and then finally this fall I was made full-time with a vote of council on a budget amendment to make me full-time, and city manager Pingle had proposed to keep me as full-time moving forward in 2026. That additional point 2 was subsequently removed from the budget. I do not know what that means. I will, City Manager Pingle and I discussed sitting down at the beginning of 2026 because the reason why I had gone to full-time is because the communications responsibilities are, there are a lot of them, especially, trying to meet the needs and the asks in the service level that the community expects. So that is something we'll have to tackle come January 1, 2026. But I did want to let you know, as I am your staff liaison, and as it is part of your work plan to discuss events and recreation, that my time may be impacted in supporting that vision. Questions? All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Amy. Committee reports. Ed, do you want to get started with Arts Council?
Sure, thank you. So we had a Diwali event celebrating Diwali at the library, which was very well attended and very fun. We have a painting event coming up also at the library on November 26th. We're going to be painting butterflies with a group of folks. It's mentioned the holiday market coming up on November 29th. And then Songs of the Season, so this is something we've done for a couple of years now in partnership with our local schools. in Newcastle and the surrounding areas, and that's going to be at Factorial Mall this year from 2 to 4 on December 6th. So come by and listen to some great folks there. And then I also want to remind everyone that we are still collecting bottle caps. So if anybody has any bottle caps out there that they want to drop off at City Hall, it'll be to help maintain our mural at Lake Bourne Park. So thank you everyone for supporting the Arts Council.
Thank you, Ed. Christian Historical Society and Chamber.
So, I'm sure some of you may have attended yesterday's Veterans Day event here, but there was also a Veterans Day event at the cemetery. So I hope members of the community got to go and check it out because it does have a beautiful new fence. And the new fence includes a new pedestrian access gate on the east fence line, and which, if you use that fence, it eliminates the need to go up the steep incline that was previously a problem for some people when you go through the main gate. I want to say thanks to all the volunteers who have showed up to help with the cleanups, and to the volunteers of the Historical Society. Everything they do, not just to keep the cemetery nice, but also to put on events like they do for Veterans Day and throughout the year. They are presenting the Preservation of Historic Structures, A Night with Jeff McCord of Nickel Brothers on Tuesday, November 18th, from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. in the meeting room at the Newcastle Library. So that's next Tuesday. And one of the structural preservations that will be discussed is how the historical Bima House was moved. So if that is something that is interesting to you, you should attend that next Tuesday at the library. For the Chamber of Commerce, they are hosting an after-hours event at Bishop's in the Newcastle Commons next Thursday? Yes. From 4 to 6 p.m. You can go to the events page on the Chamber of Commerce website and register to attend. Their 5-chamber breakfast will be December 5th. That's from 7:30 to 9 a.m. at the Hilton Garden Inn in Issaquah. And you need to register for that by November 21st. They are also helping to sponsor the annual tree lighting this year at the Fruit and Produce stand, and that is on November 29th. Hope to see everybody there. It is a fun event. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Allison, any updates from the trails?
Nothing from Trails new. They're working on lots of things that they've been working on for a while.
Okay, thank you. All right, and that's all of our reports for today, which takes us right to 8.1, discussion community liaison assignments. So at our last meeting, we had discussed the importance of these reports to council. Was it something that they felt was valued, getting that in their packet? Even though the responses I got were very limited, I did hear back from 3 council members who all agreed they find it very valuable. It's easier for them to be able to review the packets in advance and see what we're working on, what events are happening with regards to the other community groups around us. So with that, we will be continuing the liaison work that we do. And for Harvey, your benefit, and Gabriella, is probably something new. We have 7 organizations now that we will be reaching out to on a monthly basis. I'd like to align a commissioner to each group. And before our commission meetings, the commissioners need to reach out to a representative from those organizations and see if there are any activities and events that will be available to the public. So if it's like the YMCA and it's only open to members, we don't necessarily need to report that, but if it's something that's open to the public, we want to be able to share that information, especially if we have people watching our YouTube videos and then getting it into the council packets so that they can review that. So with that, we have 7 community groups. One of them is Ed's Art Council, so I think we already have Ed aligned to that. It would make much sense to have somebody else report on Arts Council. but I think you guys saw in the packet, so the other groups are Newcastle Library, Friends of the Library, so that's one group. Newcastle Trails. We're now going to combine the YMCA and Chamber of Commerce because we see that there is a direct correlation with those two groups being more tied together. Historical Society will be separated. And then Aegis Regency, especially with Regency lately doing a lot more public events. So we think that's valuable. And then Amy reached out to me and was asking about including the Scouts because they do a lot of public events. So I'd like to open it up to the commissioners if there are organizations that you feel you would like to be the liaison to. Let's open it up to that. So,
I
Allison?
don't mind starting. I would like to please, I was interested in taking responsibility for, or being assigned to, whichever is the appropriate way, the YMCA, but, or Newcastle Library and Friends of the Library, because I'm gonna stick with, I would like to request, organization group number 1, Library and Friends of the Library.
Okay. Great.
Gabriella, I would like to request Newcastle Trails.
Wonderful.
I will take number 6, Aegis Regency.
Thank you, Kim.
I'd like to keep the Historical Council if that's all right with everybody,
Okay.
or Society.
Historical Society Christian. Harvey, that leaves you and me.
Yes, so,
Don't forget your mic.
thank you. So I don't have any connections to the Scouts, but I'm happy to liaison.
We will get you that connection.
Okay?
And that leaves the YMCA and Chamber to Nathan. All right. Thank you, guys. We will publish this.
So,
And
commissioners, there's been a lot of change in some of these organizations, particularly in the past several months. So if you don't have an immediate connection, please reach out to me and I can connect you. We have a new adult librarian. There's some new leadership over at the YMCA. There's some new marketing contacts at Aegis and Regency. So, and with the Scouts, there's a new Scoutmaster. So please, if you don't have an immediate connection, reach out to me and I'm happy to put you in touch. Yeah, Bill Barris retired.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
Well, he announced retirement.
Point taken there.
So for Scouts, should I work with Nathan or you, Amy, on a connection there? Either one, both? Okay.
start with Amy.
Okay.
She'd probably be the best with the actual contact information, because I don't even know if I have the contact information for the Scouts. So,
Will do. Thank you, Amy.
and again, the object of this is to get with these organizations a couple weeks before our commission meetings to find out what are the upcoming events, and it's really reporting out about like 30 to 60 days, not beyond that, because a lot of organizations, especially like the library, they'll have things going on for 6 months. We really only want to take it a couple months at a time. Okay. Thank you. All right, first thing under general business, Brendan's going to review the preliminary walkshed map. Take it away, Brendan.
All right, good evening, commissioners. Yeah, I'll just dive right into it. It's great to see you all again. But yeah, I wanted to reapproach the 10-minute walk shed that we had previously discussed and some next steps when we were discussing Sylvan Park about a couple months ago over the summer. I had outlined a couple next steps, so I just want to provide you with an update on where we're at with that, and what the preliminary outlook has been. So just to remind you, as part of our broader parks level of service work, we have been working with a consultant to complete an updated 10-minute walkshed analysis. This looks at everywhere you can reach within a 10-minute walk, about a half a mile from our existing parks. It uses updated sidewalks, trails, and park boundaries to give us a much more accurate picture of who currently has walkable access to parks, and then maybe more importantly, where the gaps exist. So, as I mentioned, the CAC and we have discussed how valuable this map is for identifying underserved neighborhoods and informing decisions like the previously proposed Sylvan Park. So tonight, just wanted to summarize the initial findings. So I think you'll notice in the packets there's a couple of different maps that I put together of the initial findings. So we prepared two maps for reference. The one is the current park access within Newcastle, and then the second is the current access including neighboring parks in Renton, Bellevue, and King County. You'll notice they're not too different. Our consultant is currently making a few small corrections around Lakeborne access, and I just actually received those updates on Monday, so didn't make too much of a change from what you're seeing right now, but this is a actively evolving project. Bottom line, and this still stands with the new updates to the access on Lakeborne that our consultant did, three things stand out to me. And if you see anything, please let me know as well. But one is that the downtown core shows noticeably limited walking connections to park access. Second, which I thought was pretty surprising but is very apparent, is that the center of the Olympus neighborhood lacks either park or trail connections, leaving a coverage gap.
Can we discuss that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you give me a little more information on, because we do have a Olympus Trail that goes north to south that extends the whole length of the neighborhood. So how did they come up with a link to Lakeborne Park? So it needs to be connected directly to Lakeborne Park is what they identified?
So it's identifying, what you're looking at is, so first of all, it's not all of Olympus, it's just a portion. It's kind of the more western portion of Olympus where there's just not as many trail connections that would get you within a 10-minute, the key being you're walking within 10 minutes of a park. So that could mean there's not a trail that gets you either to kind of that main pipeline of the Olympus Trail, or there might just not be a park close enough. So it could be as easy as just bridging the gap of a little trail that gets all of these people in the uncovered region to Olympus Trail that gets you down to Boren or wherever you're trying to go, and that could be the correction that needs to be made, or it could be larger and we try and find a park that we could plug in somewhere in the area.
Because there is an existing trail that goes from the power line down to the pipeline, and you take a left, within 10 minutes, you're at Lakeborne Park. So I was confused by that.
Okay, we can take a look at it and just make sure that trail's on there. If that trail is not something that's in our database right now, then that wasn't given to the consultants and analyzed.
We can take this offline and you and I could.
But that's exactly the type of feedback and input that we're looking for. If there's some glaring issue and those are some you'll hear in a minute that those are some of our next steps, as well as try and maybe we missed a couple here and there, and we can play with the maps and play with the consultants on if we plugged something in here, if we just made a little connection there or added a park here, what are some of the corrections that we need to make or maybe overlooked.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, because I actually live in that area that is outside the 10 minutes, I think the 10 minutes barometer may be key here, because I know exactly the access that Chair Sticks is referring to, and that is definitely more than a 10-minute walk from my house, and I'm kind of smack dab in that middle of that uncovered space. And so maybe that's the key. It's that 10-minute barometer or benchmark that we're looking at, and that is why that area may remain uncovered.
Yeah, and I talked to the consultants too about like, maybe we just play, not that we would change the policy or anything, but it would be interesting to see if we made it 11. You know, if it's one more minute, is that going to change everything?
I guess I would
Right.
need to know, like, where is that clock start? At what point? Because Amy's right. I mean, from her house, there's no way she would make it there. But from the top of the trail at the power line down to the water line trail, you're easily at the park within 10 minutes.
Right.
So we just need to know a
Yep.
little more. Where
Yeah.
does the clock start? Okay.
A similar question on the walkability between Lake Bourne and downtown. I've walked that probably twice a week, and it seems eminently doable in 10 minutes, but it depends where you take the measurement from. If it's the border of the park, it's just down 129th, like maybe half a mile, and you're at 69th,
Yeah.
right by the library. So I'm wondering how they figured that was questionable as to whether that was walkable.
Yeah, so one thing that we noticed in that area, first of all, the couple of access points that were missing were on the north end of Lake Bourne, so we have updated it to add those 2 access points. Like I mentioned, what's being measured is each of the parcels distance within a 10-minute walk to those access points that we plot. So it's important as we're running through it that we're putting the correct access points, because if we missed one, like in this case on the north end of Lake Bourne, then what it's trying to calculate, or what it is calculating, is some of those parcels on the north end of Lake Bourne. It's thinking that those people are going to be walking all the way down to the south end of Lake Bourne where we had the access points. So we made that correction. Granted, it doesn't make too much of a difference for the core downtown area. There's still some, and there's still a lot of ground to be made in that area. And I think that a portion of that is as we're developing more of the Lake Bourne master plan. For example, the promenade on the east side, that I think would push that park access a little bit further north, because people who are in that core downtown area are going to be able to access the park and kind of more park features sooner than if they had to walk all the way down to where we're currently putting the access at. If that makes sense, me trying to verbalize a map.
Yeah, I guess it depends where the access points are.
Exactly.
It's hard to tell.
Right. And then there's also the conversation of what's considered like a park. What do we want to consider a park for someone? For example, we have one of our parks is the Thomas Rouse Park, and it's a very small park. I'm sure some of you are familiar.
Yeah.
Is it a park? It's like a gravel path. It has the park sign and the park rules, and it has a park bench. That's about it.
Well, you do have to hike kind of up to get into it.
That's true, yeah. There's a little bit of some elevation change. But we removed that because it felt like we wouldn't be doing people justice who lived right next to it to say, oh, you're covered, you got a park bench, right? So there is some of that we have to play with as well. And, like if we do build out the east side of the promenade of Lake Bourne, I think that warrants more of a park setting and feeling, and could move the access from where we currently have it, which is a little bit further south. So, yeah.
I'd also be really curious about density. So as you look at some of the areas that don't have park access, what's the population in those areas? So those are ones that we obviously want to focus on, or would want to focus on more than some of them areas where there's more open space. So I don't know if that's possible to do in the mapping, but
Well, or car dependency also, like, there are some areas where, like, and I actually look and they're pretty well covered, but like in the China Creek, China Falls area where it's so steep that most people aren't going to attempt that walk anyway. So I think making an all or nothing kind of policy can be a little bit challenging. Because yes, how many people live there? What's the likelihood of walking period? Are all things to kind of think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And to answer your question, that's something that we did bring up in talking to the consultant. That's going to be more of like a phase 2. So once we kind of get the initial idea of what we're looking at here, then we'll start reapproaching it with some of those other factors like density or, what's the elevation? What are some of the people truly, having to walk down or walk up? If you're living on the west side of the city, are you walking up a steep hill to get to a park? And you're not really in a 10-minute because you're doing a pretty hard hike to get up to, something. So just we'll keep honing it in some more.
So it was 10 minutes on a flat, steady.
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
exactly, for now.
Is Newcastle Elementary is not a park, but it's usable like one when school's out, like most of the summer. Is that considered not that there's a big area there that isn't served, but is that considered in the walkability index?
That's a great point, and it's not, because it's just not a public asset, it's not a city asset right now.
Even though the gate's unlocked most of the time.
Right. But something to consider, the way I think about that is this will give us a pretty good overlook of, areas that appear to be underserved, and it gives us locations to talk about. So if we dive into, there's 3 locations that we think we might want to put a new park, well, let's dive into each one, and that could be a good discussion topic. Like number 2 is right next to the elementary school. Does that really need one if they're actually, so that's something that we can kind of pick apart when we start diving a little bit deeper in. We've gotten really into it. This is exactly why I've been excited about the Walkshed, is kind of diving in and getting feedback from you guys and progressing all this. So I will mention the last thing that stood out to me was that, and this is what brought up a lot of this discussion, was that the Sylvan Park, the previously proposed Sylvan Park area does appear to show some gaps in the LOS, which is, I think, great that we're noticing that in the map, and it's something that we can now, look a little bit closer at and have a good reason to, if we wanted to pursue a park in that area. So with that, we briefly discussed this, but some of the next steps are kind of moving into updating the map some more and just kind of honing it in some more. But right now, next step is to test potential park sites. So the consultant now is using the model to identify areas where a new park would have the largest impact on walkable access, helping us move toward near 100% coverage by 2044. That's ultimately the goal from the comp plan, is to try and achieve that 100% coverage of the city by 2044. So right now we've tasked them with trying to just generally plot some spots that look like they would make a larger impact, so we can kind of hone in and start figuring out what locations could use a new trail or park, or how we achieve that. So that will be kind of my next update to you guys once I've fleshed it out a little bit more with them on, I think the ultimate goal for us in this setting is to start honing in on where could we put some new parks, how do we want to do those, what's it look like doing those parks, or where do we want to put trails. So more to come on that, but just wanted to provide you all with that update, and I'll leave it open to any more questions on the Walkshed if you have that.
One more question. If a park is outside of Newcastle, the borders of Newcastle, underserved area, is that park considered within walkability? Like if there's something in Renton or Bellevue that's nearby?
So that's what we ran on the second map, the one in orange here. Existing access with neighboring city parks included. It honestly didn't make too much of a difference for the Newcastle residents. You can see the red outline. This is the approximate city boundary. So yeah, really it didn't make that big of a difference. There's some change on the southeast end and the northwest side, but yeah, it really didn't make too much of a difference. I think the reason being there was some sidewalk issues on the south end with Renton that we just weren't able to connect over into Renton that well right now, which could also be covered by trails in the future to bridge the gap kind of over into May Creek potentially. But yeah, we did run that analysis and we just didn't see too much of a difference.
Any questions for Brendan?
Just excited to have this, is to be able to make data-informed decisions.
Good job, Brendan.
Thanks. Should I jump into the next one? All right. All right, so jumping into park rules and court etiquette, just more of an open discussion. So just some background again, we've received community feedback on a couple of topics, both related to rules. And both over the summer, we got a lot of feedback on e-bike use in the park, and also player rotation and etiquette on the Lakeborn tennis courts and pickleball courts. Both issues tie back to our existing park rules signage, which was last updated in 2019. Some language may need clarification to better match current recreation trends. So yeah, looking to briefly update you on that and see if you have any guidance on either one of the topics. We'll start with e-bike use. So the current rules, the current park rules sign from 2019 say, in quotes, vehicles outside of the designated parking lot are prohibited. That's the closest rule that's on the existing park rules to that might be related to e-bikes. So e-bikes aren't directly referenced. They were far less common at the time, but the signs cite the full park rules in Newcastle Municipal Code 12.55. Community concerns over the summer received multiple complaints about e-bikes on natural surface trails in the park areas. Concerns centered on speed, safety, and conflicts with pedestrians. The current response has been, we've created orange notice signs that they are included in your packets and posted them at access points or areas that we see e-bikes being used off-roading, for example, in Lakeborn and Redmond Park. We posted these signs. They say, no e-bikes on natural surface trails, class 1 and 2 allowed on paved shared use paths only. Class 3 e-bikes prohibited on all trails, and riders must yield, be courteous, and stay below 15 miles per hour. Below that, it kind of breaks down the class 1, 2, and 3 because that's not really intuitive. These notices actually worked really well as targeted site-specific tool. We would print them out, laminate them, plop them right where we're seeing the issue at. So if whoever's tearing up, Lakeborn on their e-bike in the dirt comes back and they see the sign, it's like a very direct, we know you're tearing this up and you're breaking the rules. So that seemed to work really well. My recommendation right now is to continue using the orange notice signs as needed where the e-bike issues appear, just because we had a lot of effective use of that over the summer. And then when we do replace park rule signs in the future, add a simple line which maybe covers e-bikes a little bit more specifically with something along the lines of no e-bikes on natural surface areas or trails unless otherwise posted. So I'll pause there to, there's some guiding questions if you guys want to dive into those below or in your packets there, but just any initial thoughts on e-bikes, future policy, updating signs, etc.
Quick question, just the semantics and all, but natural surfaces, does that include grass? Should it?
Yes. It doesn't. Well, I would include grass, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important, legally speaking, to have no loopholes and to ensure a closed loop code.
Yeah, okay.
Couple things, Brendan. So number one is, I think we should be including e-scooters as well. That is becoming a very popular tool that kids are using nowadays. Mm-hmm. And I've actually seen kids flying through Lakeborn Park on these e-scooters. They're like skateboards with a handle, and they cruise. So e-bikes, e-scooters, if we could include that. My only concern with the signage, these orange signs, is they're on little wooden stakes in the ground, and I have watched the kids pick them up. They pop right out of the ground. If there's a way to maybe mount them with a more secure post or something so that they're not as easily removable, would be great.
Like a T-post that's pounded in versus just a wooden stake or something. Yeah, okay.
To piggyback on top of that comment, I think it's also important to just say not to mount those signs on trees. If someone's looking to cut corners, just put that in there right now. Not on the trees.
Good foresight, yeah.
Just want to get a pulse check. Does everybody feel like 15 miles an hour maximum speed is the right amount? It seems a
I
little.
want to name that too. Just an incident that happened with me a few weeks ago, not in a park, of course, but we were in that area between like McDonald's and Aegis, where there's the rail on one side and basically Cold Creek Parkway on the other. Super narrow sidewalk. And somebody went by me on an e-scooter, and, you know, myself, husband, dog, herding dog, kid without a helmet on. Good news is we he had to wait for the light to cross, and I caught up with him. And was able to say, oh my gosh, I'm really worried about you. You weren't wearing a helmet, didn't know you were coming, whizzed by. This dog's bred to chase things that move. Could have been really bad. You know, in order to stay safe next time, gave him some parameters. And yeah, and like there's 15 miles an hour with 2 feet around is not safe, especially without any level of warning. You know, I think about like the skier responsibility code and kind of they always have the, you know, Vitruvian man, right? Where it's like basically 6 feet of space on any side of someone, or you basically should be almost dismounting and walking. Or the crawliest crawl you can possibly do if you can't give that much room. Because, yeah, I don't want anybody that close to me at 15 miles an hour. And I had another one on Thomas Rouse Road that was a very similar situation, just screaming by with not even an arm length difference or space.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that makes me think too, I'll touch base with our Assistant Public Works Director right now, or, you know, in the coming weeks and see what the general policy is for people on sidewalks and with these, you know, scooters or bikes, because I know people will hop up and down on, you know, between street and whatever's more convenient for them to zip around on. So I'm just curious to pick their brain as well and see what, how fast, you know, is dictated on the sidewalks.
And I'm thinking of like Burke Gilman and Sammamish Trail and those others, the all riders must like naming to use your voice or bell when passing.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, with that, Brenda, I mean, one of the key things I think is the education. So one thing I hear a lot is they'll read the sign, it says designated, and they're like, well, what does that mean? Where is the designated place that I can ride? Mm-hmm. My scooter, my bike, and I know we don't, in your backyard, a parking lot. But I think continued education. I know the chief Kajihiro was really on a social media kick of advertising some of this. And it'd be great if we could figure out a way to continue doing that so we can continue educating kids. And maybe it's, I don't know, something that can go be delivered at schools, parents, somehow to let them know this is what we are intending and this is serious and we're looking out for everybody's safety. So anything we can do there would be great.
This is a really wide problem, probably almost everywhere, but I recently, this whole scooter and e-bike thing, e-scooter and e-bike, but I read about an incident in Kirkland where a car was getting ready to make a right turn and they were in a right turn lane and a e-bike came up next to him and went straight in a bike lane and just scooted up behind him, and the driver was cited for hitting the scooter rider or hitting the scooter because they didn't give the right of way, but that scooter had come up right behind or right beside it. And again, it's a really wide problem, and it's probably something we're going to be doing a lot of learning about in the foreseeable future. But yeah, whatever we can do to help people not get injured, whether they're on wheels or whether they're walking, is best for all of us, as well as messing up our parks and stuff.
I wonder if there's kind of going back to Gabriella's piece with the close all the loopholes, like a class 3 is just not allowed. You can ride it in an ORV park. So I would say it's just like making it clear that not allowed on any trails or shared use paths. It's just not allowed. Because otherwise they'll, can it hear? Can you hear?
I think that from what I've witnessed, a lot of the people who are riding electronic or / motorized vehicles are persons under 18. I think, can the code actually enforce what children do? Maybe we should think about having a space where they can do what they're going to do, because they're going to do it. So we should provide them with a space to do it. We don't want to limit their recreation, because we all know idle hands are the devil's playthings. So, like City of Renton is currently working on turning one of their parks into a bike park, but that's going to be a long ways out. So maybe we can think about any undeveloped land that we might have, or maybe repurposing land that we do have. I know that e-bikes are currently being used at Lake Boren Park in that grassy area. They're doing it right now anyway. What if we just fenced it off temporarily for the time being to keep them off of the streets, compartmentalize it, and then look into other areas, or maybe partnering with Bellevue to see if they have something where we can send them that's within a reasonable distance that a child could travel.
I like that, and I wonder in this development of this, is there any way to engage both young and adult e-bike riders? I know some have commented on social media posts, even adults saying, I'm worried about how this is going to get changed because underage users are, that it would become kind of an all or nothing thing. So is there some sort of an engagement we could do with people who are riding e-bikes to kind of get some socialization of some of these rules and deeper understanding, and they can use that to spread into their populations, people they socialize with?
Brendan, I'm just curious, have you reached out to Renton Parks, Bellevue Parks, Issaquah Parks, their planners to see, kind of sharing, hey, this is who I am, would love to talk to you about, what your city's doing? Have you ever reached out to any of those?
Not regarding e-bikes, no. But I have met with them regarding other things. Yeah, but that's a great question. I could reach out to them and see how they might be working. I did find, I think it was Mercer Island had put out kind of a notice to people how I learned a lot about the different class bikes and some of how they're handling it. So there's been research on that front, but I could reach out to some folks in the neighboring communities.
So don't have to recreate the wheel. They may already have some things that they're doing that, might help us as well.
Yeah.
To save you time, I'd recommend that you start with Bellevue. Renton kids don't really have e-bikes for a variety of reasons. So just to save time, I'd recommend starting with Bellevue and then moving down to Renton.
Must be prevalent in Snoqualmie too, because I've, through nature of the social media machine, have received a lot of City of Snoqualmie's response to e-bikes. So I've seen Mercer Islands.
Just to clarify, this orange sign doesn't apply to bicycles, people who are doing trail riding on bicycles, doing jumps over the hills inside Lake Bourne. It's just motorized stuff, right?
It touches on bicycles, but it's truly targeted, I guess, at the more e-bikes. Yep.
I do see a little bit of non-motorized bicycles doing that, but they go slower.
Right.
People seem to be older, the bones heal quicker, longer, and you can heal fractures. They wear helmets.
Okay, that's all I had on that. Are there any more questions on e-bikes, or I'll move on to our last discussion topic here? Really appreciate all the feedback. That was very helpful. All right, thank you. All right, last is going to be tennis and pickleball court etiquette. So current court rules, the existing 2019 side that's in the court notes, courts are for tennis and pickleball only, no bikes, skates or pets, singles limited to 1 hour, doubles 1.5 hours. When others are waiting, no private instructions without permission, no holding courts while waiting. There's the signs are detailed in the packet that you all have as well. I believe it's on the first page there on the right, tennis court rules. So there's, it goes into more detail on the actual sign itself. But the bottom line is that right now the signs do not include guidance on pickleball rotation or paddle stacking, which I understand is a method for people who are playing pickleball to know who's playing next and kind of keep things civil on the pickleball court, as we're seeing more popularity in pickleball, especially over the summer after we've done the new lines. So we've actually had players report that there's confusion about turn taking and during busy periods specifically. And we've had many ask for posted rotation guidelines, or even, I believe there's a number of different devices that you can hang on the fence, or people attach to the fence, or you can have next to the fence where they can stack their paddles. I've seen a handful of different types. There's also just laying your paddles on the court. Honestly, current response, we haven't posted any signage on how to do this, or how to do the rotations, or what the pickleball etiquette should be. So I know we have 1 or 2 pickleball players on the commission, so really opening up the conversation to next steps, recommendations, what you all have seen elsewhere, and how we should continue.
Being one of those pickleball players, so the tennis court rules, that sign is not anywhere to be found. I think we used to have one, but I think it got taken down, right?
It's in a little room that's attached to the bathrooms. We just need to pull it back out. It was taken down when they redid the courts.
Oh, okay. So it just needs to be reinstalled.
Yep.
Okay. I had reached out to you about a paddle organizer because I know that the city of Seattle pickleball organization is giving them away. Did you ever follow up? Do you need us to follow up?
I was actually going to go a different direction. I had a connection who I haven't heard back from yet regarding the pickleball. I know, but I don't think they were associated with the Seattle group.
So a friend of mine is a huge organizer in Sammamish, and she said if you reach out to the city of Seattle pickleball organization, that they help other cities. And one of the things that we can get is a pickleball organizer. It hangs on a fence. It has a place to put 2 paddles, and all we have to do is create a little how-to. So one interesting thing, I was at Lake Bourne Park, this was about 3 weeks ago, and it was a beautiful day, and the courts were packed, and there were people sitting on the benches outside the fence, and there were pickleball players, there were tennis players, and one of the things that I found very quickly was everybody was kind of being very friendly with each other, but they were all asking about the same thing, like, do we have any rules? And I said, actually, we're working on that. And hopefully in the next month or so, we'll have some things to publicize and put up on the court. So I'm glad we're working on this because the sport just keeps getting more popular and more popular. And now that we've increased the capability at the park, 4 pickleball courts and 2 tennis courts, I think the level of play will just continue to get busier and busier. So the more we can put something in place, I think the better.
I like the idea of the supplemental pickleball etiquette sign. I support that.
Ditto.
And I like it being a little bit more of a transient resource just because those things can change over time, kind of the culture. So
Maybe some lessons learned is to have that sign be very big, very legible, potentially in other languages, and to also have on there a rule that says no repainting or restriping the court, no altering the court, and then also reminding people that no weapons, and also a note about saying be civil. I don't know if we have a trespass rule here in Newcastle where if there's inappropriate conduct, we can have the police issue a no trespass for a person up to 6 months, and that includes all parks within the city boundary. These are going to be future issues that are going to pop up, I'm sure. And then also thinking about how to deal with requests for lighting. People are going to start requesting to have lighting put up in the park if they haven't already, and how we want to respond to that.
For more widely recognized rules and whatnot, might it be helpful to have a QR code leading someplace with information? Just a thought. And maybe accessible to other languages as well.
All great input. And I think my mind went to the QR code as well when, I would like to have as many languages as possible. So if,
And you could be a little bit more flexible with changes there as well.
Right.
I would assume.
Yep. Okay. Very fruitful. I appreciate any other input that you all have regarding. Okay. I appreciate it. That's all I have for my part, but I'll hang around for any more questions. Thank you.
I have one question. It really doesn't have to do with this, but I just don't know the answer to that. Do we ever close the gate at the park? Is that get closed?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't know. Has anyone else seen the gate closed before?
It was closed this summer once. Connor, I happened to be walking across, they were closing it, and it may have been they were doing some work on the parking lot, and I think they had to make sure no cars could get in there.
Yeah.
It was just temporary. It was temporary.
We also closed it on July 3rd, so that the crew and staff could set up for the fireworks event that evening.
Yeah, but not on any regular basis.
They used to close it every night. When we first were, because we've been there since 1989, and when the park was first made, Newcastle, Lakeborn Park, they were actually closing it every night.
Yeah, and I think I remember at some point it was being closed, but not recently because I've driven by there after dark and every time it's open. So.
Thank you, Brendan.
Thank you.
Is that something that we want, is for the close of, okay, because I would say that is not gonna work with our staffing. Number of people, the hours that they work.
It is clearly signed that the park closes at dusk.
Okay.
Whether or not that's actually enforced, it's not. Cars are in there all day and night, so.
I've been in there, although it's been a while, but I've been in there at the darker end of dusk and have seen police looping through the parking lot, which just made me walk faster.
Okay, any other questions for Brendan? Thank you so much.
Full confession, I'll be walking through the park on the way home probably tonight.
Yeah.
I'll have a flashlight.
Okay, Amy, Parks Overview Part 3.
Dramatic introduction there. Okay, so a little history for our new commissioners. About a year ago, the commission had asked for an overview of each of our park properties. We have more than 16, and so I have broken it up into 4 separate presentations. We were able to do 2 of them earlier this year, and we are returning to the remaining now that the heavy event season is over. So tonight I present to you part 3, and we have the benefit of our subject matter expert on the other side to correct me if I need some assistance. All right, next slide, please. All right, so just the same slide, our park map, our statistics there. We can move on from that one. That one's a repeat. All right, so part 3 is going to take us to the west side of the city. And we're going to look at Hazelwood Park, Madison Lane, Little Rhodey, and Wintry. Next, please. So let's take a look at Hazelwood Park. This is a Google image taken from Google Earth above, and at the very bottom is where you'd find the the Hazelwood Boardwalk. And then at the very top of the slide is where Risden Middle School would be. Because there are a lot of trees, it was really hard to get a good snapshot. But we have some on-the-ground images coming up. But Hazelwood Park is a natural space, over 7 acres of natural wooded ground. The main entrance is considered to be at the end of 121st Place Southeast. And 121st Place Southeast happens in different parts of the city. So the one I'm talking about is the one off of Newcastle Way. If you're headed into the city off Newcastle Way, you take a right, go all the way down to the end of 121st Place Southeast, and you will find the main entrance to Hazelwood Park. The main amenities there are the trail, and many steps that support the trail, and the boardwalk. Most notable about Hazelwood Park is a project that is near and dear to many of us in the community is the boardwalk, which is scheduled to be replaced next year. So if you flip to the next slide, you can see some close-up images. There's the boardwalk on the left, some of our stairs on the right, some of our wooded areas also on the right. This is Madison Lane Park. It is, I guess, what you would call a mini park. There's 0.27 acres. It is located at 6900 115th Court Southeast in the Madison Lane neighborhood. It is parallel to Risden Middle School and 116th. There are quite a few amenities at this little park here. There are benches, there's a top play structure, swings, a lot of very nicely landscaped spaces, open space, and walking paths. This year it was featured in the Pumpkins in the Park. It was one of our locations. Here are some pictures. So there's the entrance in the lower right. It's got a nice little entrance with a very, very nice. All right, next up we have Little Rhodey Park. Actually, this is one of my favorite parks because it's just tucked away and it's so aptly named. It is a mini park, and I didn't have the actual acreage on that one readily available. I don't know if Planner Hutchins knows it off the top of his head, but it's small. Yeah. And it's located in a neighborhood at the northeast corner of Southeast 80th Street and 113th Ave Southeast. So basically, if you go down 116th and you if you're headed south, take a right onto Southeast 80th is where you'll find Little Rhodey. And it's one of those small but mighty parks because there's a lot packed into a small space. There's a play structure, a half basketball court, a gazebo, and picnic tables. It also has some landscape spaces, although not as many open spaces as some of the larger mini parks. And it does have some walking paths. And it was featured as a location for the very first Pumpkins in the Park in 2023. And so here are some on-the-ground pictures. And just a little bit of a note, these were taken in 2016. And so those trees and landscaping that you've seen are fully grown. And so it's a nice, really wooded, treed border around the playground there. All right, and our last park tonight. So this is what I got from Google Earth. There was no perspective I could get that actually showed the park. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna lean into it. This is Wind Tree Park from Google Earth. It is also what I guess we'd consider a mini park. It has about 1/3 of an acre. Located at 9129 121st Ave Southeast in the Wind Tree neighborhood, basically at the end of one of those north-south streets in the Wind Tree neighborhood. And there are a lot of amenities packed into this one. There's a play structure, there are benches, there are picnic tables, there's some public art there on the ground, but there's also a large picnic shelter there. There is a lot of natural spaces. So unlike a lot of our parks where they're landscape spaces with plantings and a planting plan, Wind Tree is a more natural feel to it. There are walking paths that take you around the park into different little pockets. And for those of you who participated in Pumpkins in the Park this year, it was featured as one of our locations. And some pictures from Wind Tree. Here you go. You see the picnic shelter from the side up and to the left, the play structure, the public art, and you can get a feel for how it's really a natural as opposed to a cultivated landscape space. And that is 4 more parks to add to your list of parks.
Wind Tree is the best one to go to on a hot day.
Yeah.
Amy, can you go back to your first slide with the map? I just have a question because I'm having a little brain problem. Where is Sylvan Park on that map?
Give me a second, right here. This is this little parcel right here is the city-owned land, and this is what the trails, Newcastle Trails was hoping we could get a easement for, that little southern parcel to the south, which is currently owned by the HOA.
Thank you. I just needed a little reminder. Yep.
So near Lake Washington Ridge or Lake Washington Crest, maybe? Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Alrighty. Well, we will, depending on our agenda meeting, look forward to part 4, the final 4 parks for now, until we get new ones online, either in December or January. All right.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, commission duties. I thought this would be a good time for a refresher, especially with our new commissioners. I'm sure most of you have read this in advance. Amy included it in the packet. I'm not going to read through this entire document, but I did want to go over just some of the basics. So our commission is to provide advice and make recommendations on parks, recreational facilities, and community service programs of the city. That is not changed. There are people out there that still believe that all we do is activities and events, but we do a lot more than that. And so I really want us to just continue to keep that in the front of our minds. We serve as a review and advisory body to the City Council on city-owned park, planning, design, and construction, park and facility development, renovation, trails and paths, recreational programs, and special community events and community engagement. So as we're thinking about that, it's going to be critical as we're looking at our work plan for 2026, that we kind of keep also that in the back of our minds. And then quickly, the duties is to collaboration with other city committees and community groups on preservation and growth of parks, trails, open space, historical, cultural, and artistic assets. And so thank you tonight for signing up again for liaison to community groups. Coordination of efforts to engage the entire community in city activities, including people from diverse age groups and underrepresented ethnic populations. Review of and recommendations on maintenance of city parks and trails. Review of and recommendations on cultural events, festivals, concerts, farmer and craft markets, and other community events. Review of and recommendations on community recreation programs. Review of and recommendations on gifting policies regarding citizen contributions to the city. Coordination of city volunteers, except for emergency management volunteers and volunteer recognition efforts. And lastly, review of and recommendations on planning, design, development, construction, and renovation of city parks, trails, and paths. So very proud that we do a lot more than just events and activities, and we will get in this coming year, I think a lot more, now that we've got Brendan here full-time, involvement with parks and trails and working on things more than just activities and events, which we have always done, but I think it'll be more in the forefront of people's minds. Any questions with that? Okay.
Question.
Yes.
I think somewhere in there are the committees. Is that covered in here? No, it's not. So my question is maybe related to this: is what are the committees? How does who serves on committees from this commission, and how do you get on a committee? What do you do?
Good question. So from time to time, like we're having the Lights of Newcastle, and so we'll have a subcommittee that will be put together to help support Amy with planning of these events and executing the events. So Newcastle Days will have a subcommittee. Concerts will have a subcommittee. So those are the committees.
So they pop up seasonally or when needed. Okay.
And we're always saying, okay, we need 3 commissioners to volunteer for that committee. Who can head it? And then 2 other people to help support it.
And is that done within this meeting, this monthly meeting, or is it just sort of ad hoc?
Good question. So it's a one-off, right? There'll be meetings outside of the regular meetings. And we can only have 3 commissioners because if we have 4, it is considered a public meeting, which means it would have to be open to the public. So we have to minimize and keep it to 3 commissioners.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next thing is our annual work plan, which we will not be reviewing tonight, but I just wanted to remind everybody, in your packet is our work plan from 2025. We'd like to use that as a guideline to help give us at least some direction on what we want to look at for 2026. So we'll be using our December and January meetings to actually start working on the work plan, reviewing it, seeing if there's anything we want to update, change, reword. We'll have working sessions within our meeting, and with the goal of being able to present to council for approval in February. Okay? So if you read through the work plan from 2025, you'll see it really does encompass everything that our duties encompass. And I think we did a really good job this year, of putting that together. Gabriella, it helps to guide us as everything that we do to just keep in the forefront of our minds that we are proceeding with everything that we set out to do.
The principles section, or the strategic direction section. So when do we start work on the work plan?
At our December meeting. Years ago, we would have an offsite where we actually met, and it was like an all-day work session. And several years ago, we pretty much decided that we have a pretty good template that we like, and so we don't have to recreate the wheel every year. We kind of like using that as our starting place and build on it, which I hope we do again this year, but we'll discuss that next month. Any questions, any thoughts? Okay. Thank you. And last but not least, adult recreation. Kim, take it away.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty quick for now. I was at the chamber luncheon a few weeks ago and met Peggy, who's one of the marketing director for Aegis. And she and I exchanged email addresses, and Aegis is interested in having a weekly adult ping pong in the Stanhead Center. And the plan is that they would look at Mondays from 5 to 7 p.m. They would set up the ping pong tables and they can provide balls. People would have to bring their own paddle. Maybe that's something people have. And so they were hopeful that the city could support a volunteer for the activity during the session. Basically someone to just, supervise play, and probably if we have more people than tables, making sure that there's a fair movement around. And in thinking about this for myself, I mean, I'm certainly not asking any commissioners to volunteer for this. My thought would be that we would offer the city's volunteer newsletter, if potentially, that would be my recommendation, that we would offer the volunteer opportunity to work with Aegis. So they wouldn't be volunteering for the city at Aegis, but the relationship would be between Aegis and that volunteer. Ultimately, we would be the conduit to get them the volunteer opportunity and to kind of get the word out for Aegis that there's this adult recreation opportunity. It's Monday nights, 5 to 7. You have to bring your own paddle, ping pong balls provided, and then, trying to locate a volunteer who's willing to participate, or probably more than one, so they can have relief for each other. So I guess the question for the council would be, do we support this? And I get a question for Amy would be, can you support this given your reduced staffing time? And the ask that I need to confirm that meets Aegis's agreement, but I think that, based on kind of the email conversations we've had, that sounded like that would be appropriate for them, and that's all they're asking for is just someone to supervise and kind of keep the flow going.
I guess the question I would have for Amy is if the ask is simply to get it into the newsletter and then have the volunteers contact Aegis directly, so it's not anything that we have to do, you have to do. Is that, if
Yes,
Aegis agrees?
Yeah, that's a very reasonable ask. I mean, I happily do it for other organizations, the Holiday Pop-Up Market, the art fair. I'm happy to, Boot Castle. The city was involved in Boot Castle only during COVID, when Newcastle Fruit and Produce felt that they could not handle Boot Castle, but Boot Castle was a fruit and produce thing. And so what I do is I work with Michelle, I believe it's Michelle, at Fruit and Produce to help get the volunteers they need to execute. So that is a very easy ask of me and my time, and in fact that is a welcome ask, because I do like to have opportunities to advertise to folks who are interested in volunteering in our community, and that the city has limited opportunities. So that's a great ask. In terms of shifting, if the city were asked to be the coordinator of volunteers, that's where it gets a little bit more tricky, not just in terms of time, but also in terms of paperwork. Anytime you involve the city, there's just a lot more paperwork. There are a lot more rules. There are a lot more T's you have to cross and I's you have to dot. And so that may not be something that Aegis wants to get into either. However, I would recommend, just based on best practice, I never have a volunteer by themselves. I always have a volunteer paired, in terms of safety, in terms of having backup, be able to shift on or off if someone needs to use the restroom or whatnot. I would recommend that they always have people volunteer in twos. And if it's just 2 hours, that's a very reasonable shift. They would want to do some sort of a training with them in advance of the first one. And I'm happy to work with them to help that vision come to life. I love the idea of having more recreational opportunities in our community for adults because all of our recreational program is youth sports, and we had an art camp this summer, so we're limited. And so if I can help in that way, provided the commission thinks it's a good idea, I'd like to be able to do so.
And then I'm sure the ask would then be just like we do with Boot Castle or various other things, that we would be able to put that in our comms as a thing that's happening, an event, not just the volunteer opportunity in the volunteer newsletter, but yeah, great. What do you think, commissioners?
I have a couple questions. I'm sorry I don't know this already, but maybe somebody else does. Does the YMCA do any sort of adult ping pong activity?
I know they used to on Fridays. I don't know if they still do, but that was what they did. But that would only be open to members. So this would be full community.
And then my other question is, might this be something that a pair of, say, high school seniors could do? You're thinking about it. I'm thinking, 2 hours, I guess probably it would, as always, completely depend on the individuals. But that seems to me like for the right pair of young people, that might be a fun and
Potentially, I'd have to find out from our HR director, because I know in other cities, I think the age is 16 to take certain recreation monitoring jobs. So I would, if it were city coordinated, I would have to ask, and I probably should anyway, just to provide Aegis with the best practice guidance. So I don't know the answer to that one.
Does Regents have something similar? I mean, should we think about other places like that where we could promote activities that kind of work with our strategy?
Regency doesn't have anything ongoing that I know of. They're dipping their toes a lot more into various community events. And that certainly would be something, get this started, see how this goes, and see they have, of course, a different layout of space than Aegis does, but they might have some opportunities. I do know there are some people that volunteer at Regents. My neighbor plays board games there on Saturday with the residents, so yeah, not you. But yeah, they do have some things in a smaller scale at Regency, but nothing where it's a regular weekly thing where the whole community is going in.
Well, I think it's a great idea. If we can, sounds like it's low effort, easy to communicate, and we have a lot of volunteers, so maybe we just need a couple.
Kim, do you know, is Aegis doing something in-house right now on their own?
Not at all. This is something they would like to implement in the new year, so they were thinking post-January 2026 start.
And I have to give accolades to you for getting with Aegis and for them reaching out and having that opportunity to get them more involved in community activities. So I think it's a great idea.
Chamber luncheon.
Networking. It meets one of our big directives that we do, and that's right, being involved in the community and helping to get the community outreach. So, good job. Does everybody feel good about this? Thumbs
Yeah,
up?
I will meet with Peggy and make sure that our parameters and their parameters are in alignment, and I can explain confidently what and why we might choose the route that we're proposing, and then I'll report back.
Great job. Anything else on that? Okay, Amy, any additional public comment? Surprise. Okay. Lastly is our planning calendar. So our next CAC meeting will be December the 10th. Right now, we are keeping it very short to, Amy will do a parks overview, part 4. We're going to spend the majority of the meeting going over our annual work plan, so be ready for that. And lastly, Amy will have some summer event dates to review with us, but we're going to keep it very tight to our work plan session. Okay?
I see something on the calendar that says CAC agenda on November 25th, about 2 weeks from now.
That's a very good question. So
6 p.m. Zoom.
Amy, Nathan, and Ed meet right at the end of each month to plan the agendas for the following month. So that's what that is.
So if there's anything that you would like to see on there, there is a process in your guide that says, 2 commissioners must vote, but as a body, as a chair, we're a little bit more open about that and informal about that. And so you can just let Nathan know you'd like to see something on the agenda. You can either do it, now as the planning calendar is being discussed and it can be put on the planning calendar, or you could, send him an email or let him know you'd love to see something on the agenda. But if, November, that meeting is for the December agenda. And then at the end of December, we'll meet for the January agenda. So just in terms of thinking about time.
Okay, if I have anything, I can email.
Yep.
Nathan on it.
And this lives on our SharePoint site, so if you ever, can't get a hold of me or Amy or whatever, and you just want to remember that this is something, you can always put it on there, and then, of course, you'll get a phone call from one of us going, what is this?
Okay. Very good. Say what? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anything else anyone needs to discuss? Okay, with that, the time is 8:33, and we are adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry.